Let's bring in Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. He's a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. We have a lot to talk to you about, including an event pertaining to gun safety legislation happening tomorrow. But first, let's start with the federal indictment of former President Donald Trump. Haven't heard much from your colleagues on the Senate side, but boy, on the House side, there's a lot being said. What do you make of the defense of this indictment among your Republican colleagues?
I think it's really dangerous, the allegations that they're making. Obviously, they have zero evidence to suggest that President Biden is pulling the strings of the judicial department, and it just further erodes faith in our judiciary. You're right. You haven't seen a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking, a lot of punditry from Democrats in the Senate and the House, in part because, we think it's important to maintain some degree of independence some degree of separation between the Congress, the legislative branch, and the law enforcement entities of this country. But no doubt these are incredibly serious charges, and the American public are certainly watching. I mean, I guess my worry is that the entire political conversation gets focused around these charges when I think when it comes to Donald Trump's candidacy, what matters a lot more to Americans are his pledges to continue his policy of tax cuts for billionaires and millionaires and impose a national abortion ban. Those are likely the conversations voters out there are going to find much more relevant. These charges are serious, but probably not going to be the things that motivate voters to the polls if Donald Trump becomes the Republican nominee.
Senator, just to follow up on Mika's question, you had one of your colleagues, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, who, by the way, is the ranking Republican on the Intelligence Committee, say, what was the damage? Show me the damage from Donald Trump keeping these documents at Mar-a-Lago. Did Iran gain an edge? Did China gain an edge? Spinning for Donald Trump. Again, ranking member on the Intelligence Committee. Should a person, most of us don't think he actually believes that, he knows better, but if he and others, like Speaker McCarthy, actually believe this is a nothing burger, should their security clearances be looked at?
Well, this has become one big cult of personality, the Republican Party, and so they have this reflexive instinct in order to defend the leader. But my colleagues in the Senate, especially those in the Intelligence Committee, know how dangerous it is for someone to purposely retain this kind of classified information. We have at least one instance where Donald Trump was very purposely and deliberatively sharing the information in order to settle a political score. We don't know why he kept all the documents. Maybe they were just as mementos, but maybe he was using them in order to selectively release them in order to try to benefit his political career or damage his political opponents. And everybody who serves on the Senate Intelligence Committee knows that's exactly why we don't walk out of that room, that secured room in the basement of the Capitol with classified documents, because they hold enormous political power if they were to be released.
Senator, Reverend Sharpton, I wanted to ask you, you said about how voters are going to be concerned about other issues other than the criminal indictment of the president. Tomorrow at University of Hartford, you're having the gun violence summit, and President Biden is coming. What kind of goals are going to come out of the summit? And do you think there'll finally be some legislative movement? Because as I travel around the country, people are frustrated that we can't even get background checks through the Senate or the House. Where do we take this after we have summits, which I certainly think is necessary tomorrow, and the president coming adds to it? But where are we going to take this? Voters are going to be very concerned about that.
Yeah, so tomorrow in Hartford, for the first time, all of the anti-gun violence groups are coming together in a summit. This is the one-year anniversary of passing the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. That's the first major gun safety bill in 30 years passed through Congress. President Biden obviously had a lot to do with that, so he's coming to Hartford to give the keynote address. I mean, first, I think we just have to celebrate our progress. When you're building a big political movement like this, as you know, Reverend Sharpton, you need to show people that their advocacy sovereignty matters. And we have made enormous progress. We beat the NRA last summer for the first time in 3 decades. And that happened because the movement has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Kids, parents, community members coming out to town halls, writing letters, making phone calls. And so we just want to celebrate the fact that we have made a difference. There's some interesting data over the first 5 months of this year suggesting that murder rates, gun violence rates may be coming down by double digits in some of America's biggest cities. But we also are going to plan for the future at this summit. And you are right. We need to pass universal background checks. And my hope is that we'll be able to rally the American public, if not to get it done this year, to be able to elect some more Democrats next fall that can help us get that to the finish line.
All right, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, thank you very much. It's great to have you on the show this morning.